Welcome to Real Careers, Real Talk, a partnership between the Kalamazoo Public Schools and Kalamazoo RESA. My name is Sarah Mansberger, and I work for Kalamazoo RESA. And our goal with the Real Careers, Real Talk series is to help you get exposed to a wide variety of different types of work and careers right here in our own backyard. I am so excited to introduce a guest today by the name of Malcolm Jones. He works for a company in Kalamazoo called Life EMS. And so we're going to hear from Malcolm. He also has a connection to Kalamazoo Public Schools. We hear a little bit about that. We're going to get to understand Malcolm's career journey and how he became an EMT. Welcome, Malcolm. It's so wonderful to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, yeah. Tell us, you are a graduate of Kalamazoo Central, is that right?
I am. Yeah, go Giants.
Awesome. Okay, and you work for a company called Life EMS. What is Life EMS? Tell us.
So our actual company name completely is Life EMS Ambulance Services. As you can tell behind me, the picture of the ambulance and the fire truck. We work with fire departments.
And what is your job there?
So I work as an EMT, emergency medical technician. So anytime you were to call 911, say you cut your finger on the playground or something, we would come if your teacher couldn't handle it, and then we would assess and help you. And we would probably be the ones to take you to the hospital if your parents wanted us to.
So you are literally spending your workday in an ambulance, helping people out all day long. I know it, you know, I'm so curious. Tell me a little bit about how did you figure out that this was the kind of work that you wanted to do?
Yeah. So my senior year, I did what's called EFEs, Education for Employment. And during that course, we had internships.
So you had a unique situation. You found your way to Valley and you started going on this career pathway. Tell us, what were some of the things that you were learning when you were at Valley?
So the EMT course starts off on teaching you all about anatomy, which is basically how the body lays out and the different functions of the body and why body parts do this and why body parts do that. And then you basically learn basic first aid of how to treat trauma wounds, how to bandage things, and then you learn about how the heart works and why the heart does what it does. And then you learn about how medications act with the heart and all of that. And yeah, just so much more.
Yeah, I know that's just the tip of the iceberg. And so you started on this path, and you and I have chatted a little bit about this prior. You shared with me some of the drivers for choosing this type of field where you said, here's how I operate, and here's why this might make this field a good fit for me. Can you share a little bit about some of the things you knew about yourself and how that led you to this type of career path?
Yeah, so one of the, depending on the person, amazing things about working on an ambulance is it's 24 hours. There's no time you can't call 911 and we won't come. So that means there's always people working at night. And that just intrigued me so much that I could, because I always played video games so late at night. Like during the summer, I'd be up to like 4, 5, 6 a.m. like until the sun came up, doing nothing. And I'm like, wow, I can do this for a living. Like I'm already a Nighthawk. Why not do this for a living? And I love driving my car. When I was 16, I would drive my car just around, the windows down, playing music. And now a small part of my job, I get to do that too. So it's really cool to just do what feels natural to me.
I love the way you put that, to do what feels natural to me. Here's some of the ways I operate, and I get to do these things in my job. I'm so curious. So the world of being an EMT, we know, right? Being in an ambulance, you're coming upon some pretty intense situations, right? And having to be a critical thinker and a problem solver, like right there in the moment. How do you use critical thinking and problem solving in your job?
Well, all of the time, really. I mean, it's as simple as when grandma falls on the ground and calls 911. I mean, if you don't have experience with picking up older people and not pulling on their shoulders, you know, it might pop out, it might dislocate their shoulder or something. I mean, just the smallest things, like the way you move a stretcher, you know, if you don't do this correctly, the center of gravity can literally tip it over, you know. So, I mean, critical thinking comes into play in every aspect. I mean, it, you could argue you critically think, uh, do I have all the supplies on my ambulance at the start of your shift? You know, it could be a very critical fault if you don't have one piece of equipment, because we're operating like an emergency room, you know,
Hmm.
like Bronson or Borges, one of these big hospitals, condensed into this small, relatively small vehicle ready to save someone's life.
That's pretty amazing when you think about all the functions that you can do within this small vehicle. From your perspective, what's one of the coolest things about your job?
Uh, I'd say so. I'll break it down into two parts. One of the most rewarding parts of my job is seeing someone come out of the hospital after it was a very critical call.
Mm.
Seeing them recover is one of the most gratifying things about the job, because a lot of times we drop them off and we might not see them again, you know, because that's where our patient care ends when we take them to the hospital, and then we usually don't see them again. I'd say one of the coolest things is when I get to run lights and sirens. You know, when you see that ambulance going down stadium, you know, in the turn lane, I mean, you gotta admit that's pretty cool.
Sounds like
Like,
there's a little adrenaline rush that maybe you get when you get to do
yeah,
that.
but you actually that's the thing. You can't have the adrenaline rush, or
Mhm.
you always have to be able to control it. The way my trainer put it is, you have to keep your head on a swivel. And if you're too tunnel visioned, just what's directly in front of you, you're not going to see this car that's coming straight across the intersection. You know, so you really, it is an adrenaline rush, but you have to be able to control it. You know.
Mhm. And it sounds like maintain your capacity to think critically and solve problems, even in a really high
Yeah,
stress situation.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things people don't realize about us. It's not that we are calm, but it's not that we're not experiencing it the same way you are. I mean, I'm seeing this car flipped over on the highway just as much as you are. However, I'm making myself remain calm and not get tunnel vision. Because if you're tunnel vision, you may not notice that car's leaking gas. If you're tunnel vision, you may not notice that there's a car seat in the car. You're only paying attention to the mom. I mean, what if you miss that? That's a critical fault. And the thing about it is, in class, the scenario ends and you go home. In real life, the call ends, someone gets hurt. And that's the thing that you have to keep in the back of your head. You know, the training is over. It's no time for faults, you know. This is someone's life on the line,
I
possibly.
hear just such a huge sense of responsibility that you must have in your role to be able to, as you say, walk in, and this is not a training scenario. This is a
Mhm.
real life circumstance, and you're there to be the person to provide that assistance.
Yeah.
I'm so curious, how did you start to figure out that you were someone who could do that? Did you have hunches that you could be calm under pressure? Did you have experiences when you were a middle schooler that led you in that direction, or is that something that you've discovered along the way?
I think it's something that I've kind of just discovered about myself. I
Mhm.
thought, I don't know. I take like pride in being able to stay calm, and I wouldn't use the word not care, because I do care. And a lot of times, I tell my friends things about my job, and they're like, "Man, how can you laugh and joke about some things?" And it's like, well, it's not that it's funny. It's sometimes it's a coping mechanism to
Mhm.
serious things, but that's just usually how you take it. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But to
And
get back on track about what your original question about how did I know? Honestly, just doing it and seeing how I remain calm, and how I actually realize when I'm not being calm, and having that self accountability. Yeah.
I hear a deep, self-awareness in you,
Mhm.
talking about learning by doing and then reflecting on how you responded in a certain situation, and that's allowing you to really figure out this career path for yourself. When you were in middle school, how did you imagine your future? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I thought I wanted to be an FBI agent.
An FBI agent.
Yeah, I've always had I was 11 years old quoting a man, a man not living for others is a man who has not lived. 11
Mm.
years old. So I instinctively, ever since I was young, had a sense of responsibility for helping people. I don't know why. Like I've always just wanted to help people.
I
So
love that deep sense of service. And
yeah,
one thing I know about you also is not only do you have that sense of service, but you also have a real artistic side as well that you've managed to incorporate into your life. Tell
yeah.
us a little bit about your photography.
Oh Lord. Yeah, so I run a part-time photography business. Currently it's not that active because I'm in school, very busy. But outside of school, I love taking pictures of downtown cities, not just Kalamazoo, traveling to like Detroit, Lansing, sometimes up north. It's really just a great way for me to pass by time outside of work and to express
Mhm.
myself and to show other people what I think is beautiful. And hopefully they think it's beautiful too.
I love it. Well, for those who are listening, and we'll get you the link to Malcolm's website. He's got just some really beautiful photographs. Malcolm, you've had so many successes. You're sitting here successfully in school, successfully in a position, successfully producing beautiful photos. I know that any person who has reached the levels of success that you are and continuing to excel has had some challenges along the way. That just goes with the territory. What's one of the biggest challenges that you've faced?
Uh, I'd say when I was younger, when I was,
Mhm.
and I'm so young still, I'm only 21, but my career started young. So that's probably when I started noticing the biggest challenges because it's a whole new world. I mean, and it's a lot of responsibility. There's people in this field who are 30s, 40s, been doing this tens of years. And here I am, still in high school, 17, going to Valley. I mean, it was an extremely different environment. For one, because I had never taken an anatomy course. You know,
Mhm.
in school, you just have science or biology or chemistry or physics, but it gets much more defined in the real world of college. You know, you have microbiology, you have organic chemistry, you have all these subsections of learning. But to get back on topic, um, I'd say the first time I failed EMT was probably one of the biggest learning uh, times for me. Yeah.
So you were in a program, you
Mhm.
reached the end of it, and you heard the news that you didn't make it.
So I'm standing in there. It's test day. I passed my written test, but you have a practical test as well, where you have to show that you know what to do on a patient. So you have scenarios, and it's a full day of it. And yeah. So at the end of the day, there's all the professors in the room, and and just the tone of her voice is, you know, Malcolm, and I'm like, oh gosh, and I just go into this tunnel vision where I don't see anything else, I don't hear anything, and then all I hear is, yeah, you didn't, essentially, you didn't make it.
Oh,
And she's trying to talk to me, and I'm like, lady, can you just let me out of here? I just want to cry. I just want to go to the bathroom, and actually I did. I did cry, and I went to the bathroom, and I felt like I had broke down, and I was like, I felt so mad at myself because I felt like I let myself down, like like I didn't let my teachers down. I didn't let my maybe I let my parents down. I really felt though I let me down because I didn't do as good as I knew I could. You know, I did all this time of everything. I just let myself down. I promised myself that I would come back and do it again and pass, and
mhm.
I did the next year. So
You did, and so it sounds like you faced a real moment,
yeah,
right? I either
uh-huh.
at this moment, put this dream aside, or I come back and do it again. Were
Yeah.
there periods in your
There
life
was no option to
like
put
that?
it aside. There was no option to put it aside. It was already a passion.
Mm,
It was no longer a curiosity. I was here. I was here in the position, well, in the training that 16-year-old me wanted to do. I was here and I let myself down. It's like, if you're not going to pass, what are you doing here? And that's what's going through my head is like objectively telling myself, what are you doing here if you're not going to do what you need to, you know?
mhm.
But then something resonated within me that was saying, maybe you do need to do this again. Maybe this is a good thing. Because, like I was saying earlier, this is training. What if that scenario she had given me that I failed had been an actual person? What if that person actually needed me and depended on me? And here I am saying, oh well, I guess I don't know. This is the time to fail. This is the time to retake the courses. And look, in hindsight, and for anyone else going through it, I completely agree that if you can't pass the courses, you shouldn't be out here, because we have a lot of responsibility, but we're also giving a lot of freedom. We're given these protocols, and we have a partner, and you and them go out and face whatever in the world. Anything someone calls 911 for, you and another person have to handle. No one else. I mean, you can call a doctor at Bronson, you can call Medcom, but essentially, you and your partner are responsible for whatever. And I know that's pretty general, but just think of some of the things that could happen to humans. Anything. Anything. And that's what you and your partner are going to, and you're expected to know what to do. So, yeah, it was okay I failed. Because it's someone's life.
Painful in the moment, but it sounds like you've illustrated so beautifully the importance of preparation in your job and finding within yourself. I'm sure a bunch of emotion you shared that you had, right? But you had passion, and you had the sense of, this is where I want to go, and I'm going to pick myself up and do it again. I don't think I would make that choice. That's really inspiring.
Well, that's the thing. I value that person's life enough to do it again. I value that person's life enough to stay up and study every night, for that one person. There's not many times that I know I say save a life a lot, but it really isn't that often that we're faced with life-threatening events. But when you are, they need someone who knows what they're doing. On that 1 in 1,000 call, after 1,000 calls, you get one real one. Because people call 911 for a lot of crazy things. But when you get that one real call where they actually need you, you need to be prepared.
Well, your commitment, your passion are just so inspiring, Malcolm. And I have one last question for you. What's something that gives you hope for the future?
For my future, I would say my hard work. Knowing that, ever since I was a kid in like 3rd grade, going to parent-teacher conferences, the teacher's like, well, he might not do everything right, but he always comes back and tries to. I'm an amazing learner. I won't really give up. Knowing those qualities about myself really just, even though I might not know everything, it inspires me I'll get through it. And the more that I get through, the more inspiration it is to me that, you did that. Why can't you do this? You did that. Fire academy was hard, but you did that. And then one day, paramedic was hard, but why can't you do nurse practitioner? Or whatever I wish to do in the future.
Well, Malcolm, it's very clear your future is bright. You've been incredibly inspiring. Thank you for sharing a really significant challenge on your career path. We know that your persistence, your self-awareness, and your ability to just keep learning. I'm so excited to hear where you go next. Check out Malcolm's gorgeous photography. Malcolm, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah.
Take care.
Hey guys, my name is Malcolm Jones. I work for Life EMS as an EMT. Here's my ambulance. I'm going to show you some cool things about it. So here's how I turn on and off the lights right here. Right here is where we can have all our controls for the different lights and everything. Here's our tablet. That's how we get all our calls, and we get directions to different people's houses. Here's our radio to talk to the fire department, and our radio to talk to our dispatch. I can switch in between to talk to different hospitals and call different doctors and ask them questions if I need help with something. And that's inside of our ambulance. Just wanted to show you guys our cardiac monitor. This is how we look at people's heart and see how much oxygen is in their blood. We do blood pressures here. It's on my finger. Hopefully I have a pulse. So my pulse rate's 87 and my oxygen is 98. You can see a wave right there. Each wave represents how my breathing is. Alright guys, so here's our stretcher and everything we would bring into a call. We have our first in bag, our drug bag, and the cardiac monitor I was just telling you about. And our first in bag, we have everything we need to run a call. We have a whole pouch for kids. This is our oxygen. And then we have our blood glucose. That's how we check people's blood sugar. And this is where we have Band-Aids. And over here, we have a blood pressure and a stethoscope. And over here, that's where we keep all our drugs. And that's where we put the needles. Normally, we would have a person on this lap, and then we would load them into the ambulance. And this is how we do that. So lock it up, and then we go to the hospital.